But I think baseball is so relative because it's like you play so many. Well, you play 162 games, right?
Yep.
162 games,
Basically half the year.
and so like you could lose 60 games. I mean,
The
matter of fact,
best the
most teams
best
do.
teams lose, between 60 and 70 games usually because it's like a great season in baseball is 100 wins, which means 62 losses.
Right. And so they're typically losing more than that. They're losing like I guess a good losing record is like 63 losses, 69, something like that or whatever.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
a typical a typical good season is like somewhere in the low 90s. Like if you get to like 90 wins, that's usually like at least a playoff spot. There are some years where it hasn't been enough. There are some years where a team was like under 500 and I think they made the playoffs. So there've definitely been times where like the season doesn't tell the full story, but I do think this year in particular, there seems to be 4 to 5 teams that I feel like have kind of set themselves up to be the cream of the crop, and then everybody else is kind of just in the wild card mix. And some of those teams are the obvious ones. I mean, the Dodgers
oh yeah.
far and away are the best team still, or at least on paper. I shouldn't say they are because it's a
Right.
new season, but they've won the last 2 titles. They keep adding to this roster. I mean, they took the Mets closer for God's sakes. So it's like they are just the rich getting richer. I
Yep.
think that, the Mets have really retooled this year in a very interesting way. They like basically remade half their team, which I don't think people were expecting. I do know a lot of Mets fans in my life were very bummed that they didn't keep Pete Alonso,
Mm.
but
Well,
they brought in
Cincinnati
some
Reds.
uh,
Uh,
Baltimore
uh,
Baltimore Orioles.
Baltimore Orioles. Baltimore Orioles. Yeah.
But still, he went to like a completely different team, a completely different division. Like I know a lot of people were kind of bummed because he'd been a lifelong Met. He was setting all kinds of records for home runs, and
I was
there
pretty
does
bummed
seem to
about
be a
that.
narrative with the Mets, especially that like they don't always seem to take care of their veterans. They seem to kind of be this team that likes to sort of push some of their older players out onto like an iceberg and say like thanks so much. And baseball can be cutthroat that way, but baseball also has that weird thing where it's like some of these guys have so long of contracts.
Mm.
I mean, I remember, I think it was, what was that guy? Albert Pujols,
Oh,
who
right.
was like for the first like 10 years of his career, he was like the greatest player of all time. Like he was this like unstoppable hitting force that played good defense. And then he left St. Louis after I think he won 1 or 2 titles there. Went to, I think it was the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, whatever that team is
Anaheim
called.
Angels. Yeah.
Anaheim Angels, and they signed him to like a 11 or 10 year contract, and like right away it was a bad contract because he like got hurt and was never the same. And then for the last literal like 7 years of that deal, he was like eking out every season, and like every year was a slog. And it was like, man, why did we sign this guy to that long of a deal?
Right.
And
Now you stuck
baseball,
with him.
yeah, baseball seems to do that. Like the only player that I can think of right now that's actually earning that kind of money is Otani
Right.
because
Oh yeah.
he's just this like I
Juggernaut.
don't even have the words for him. He's otherworldly when you watch him play, considering that he's hitting and pitching.
Absolutely. Yeah. And coincidentally, he used to be. He was he
He was
didn't
on the
originally.
Angels.
He was on. Yeah. He was on Angels.
Yeah, he started on the
So
Angels, and then when he hit free agency, I think everybody and their mom was like, "Get him off this team. Nobody cares about the Angels." And all the talk was like, either go to one of the big markets, go to the Dodgers, or go to the Mets or the Yankees. And he picked the Dodgers. So I
right.
mean, and it's worked out for him. 3 straight MVPs, 2 straight titles. I mean, he's well on his way to establishing himself as possibly the best baseball player of all time. I mean, again, it's weird to compare generations, it's weird to compare eras, but like the stuff he's doing is uncharted territory for baseball.
I mean, do you think the Dodgers are on their way to their third championship? Because he's on paper, they're super poised. They got the players. They just I don't what say you when it comes to that?
It's so hard to say. I mean, baseball is such a weird sport in that it's a sprint. Well, it's a marathon and then it's a sprint because like the once you hit the playoffs, it's like some of those are 5 games. Like the series can go fast, and you can run into a hot team, or you can run into just a team that doesn't hit for 2 days, 3 days, and you're gone. The Dodgers, I think, are kind of slump proof in that they have so much pitching depth. They have so much just like in reserve, and they have all the money. If they need to go buy a player, they'll go grab a player and trade or something. I
Mm,
do think it's tough to three-peat because There hasn't been a three-peat in baseball since the Yankees did it back in the late 90s.
Mm.
So that's against them. And I do think there are some teams out there that could really give him a real effort. I mean, like I said, I think the Mets could be that team in the National League because they've retooled. They've kind of bet a little bit more on their youth, which could be good. They have some really good young pitchers. They have a couple good young hitters that are kind of in the mix.
Juan
But the Met,
Soto.
when they got Juan Soto and they got Lindor, they have a good core,
Oh yeah.
but that good core fell apart last year. So it's like
Yeah.
that they got to kind of overcome one hump at a time. First, they got to make the playoffs and like get that curse off their back. And once they're there, then I think they could be a team to do some damage. But for the Mets, I think it's first get to the playoffs because like last year
Right.
was such a disaster for them. And I
Yeah.
think that's like step one. And then in the American League, to me, it's three teams in the American League that I have my eye on, and it's the Yankees,
Mm-hmm.
it's Toronto, who was
Yes.
so close to making it
Oh
last.
yeah.
I mean, they made the World Series and they were so close to being the Dodgers, and it's the Mariners. The Mariners are the team
Hmm.
I actually think could win the World Series this year. I think they
Mariners.
have
Okay.
the depth of a lineup, and they have five legitimate good starters. And last year they were right there with Toronto, came up a little short. And I think this is the time for that team to put it all together. They've been one of these teams that like every 7 to 10 years they kind of rise up and then they fall back into like the mediocrity for a while. They've never won a World Series. I don't think they've ever been to a World Series.
Hmm. Okay.
So that would be, I think, a real interesting thing too, to have another team win a title that's never done it before. We've had a few of those the last couple of years, a team kind of just getting their first title. So I have my eyes on the Mariners as the team to maybe win the whole thing this year. But the season is long.
Nice.
God knows what kind of injuries or what could happen, who could pop up out of nowhere. But that would be my pick. What about you? What are you
Uh,
feeling as we start this first week?
my pick, well, I mean, I definitely have my eye on Toronto for sure, especially from what I've seen from them last year.
Hmm.
They're definitely a force to be reckoned with, and I think they could for sure be right back in the mix. But the team that I think out of the American League that they just kind of always hang and linger around and kind of create a little noise in helter skelter in the coming into the playoffs is the Houston Astros. I never count them out the mix.
Mm.
They always kind of seem to just be right there and poised to take it if like they don't drop a good series or whatnot. So out of the American League, just as a wild card, I guess that could possibly to snatch it and take it all. It would to me it would either be between Houston Astros or Toronto Blue Jays. But in the National League, I mean, this I'm hard pressed to really think of a team outside of the Dodgers. But I think in looking at yeah, I mean, who knows? The Mets could always do something. I don't have that. I don't have supreme confidence in what they could do because they always seem to kind of muck it up when it's time to really put it on the line. They just can't do it. But we'll see year two with Soto like what he can do. But outside of that, yeah, I would just have to see it. Maybe Miami Marlins. I don't know. They're just
Wow,
it's
you're
tough to
throwing some
say.
darts out there. The
I'm
Marlins.
throwing out, yeah,
Wow.
the Marlins. They're,
Okay.
they're the top of the East right now. But that's
Well,
just
I
that's
mean,
just now. Yeah, I
I
know.
was gonna say, let's check back tomorrow.
Exactly right.
I
No, but the,
mean,
the Dodgers, I mean, it just, they're it's for all the reasons you said. They have a loaded team, they have the money, they have the swag of the two wins. I think they could actually three-peat. I think they could clearly do it. They could create that history. It would be pretty cool to see, but not at the expense of them playing against the Yankees again. If the Yankees square off against the Dodgers again, the Yankees have to do it, or they have to forever just accept the fact that their era was the '90s and that's it. That's me personally because you got to do it. Can't keep losing against this team. You know
well,
what I
it's
mean?
reached the point where it's like
Got to
this
do it.
this it's good, as we were talking about before. Like it's going to be Judge's legacy for as great as he is, and he's another player. Like he could win a third straight MVP, which I think only Barry Bonds and Otani have ever done before.
I mean, how
So
much are
he's
they paying that man? They're paying that man like a lot, hundreds of
40
millions
to
of
50
dollars.
million, yeah, I think per year. I mean, but
Got to do it, bro.
Otani's making I think 75 million a year. It's like the numbers are nuts.
Yeah, but
But
you
the
have to do it.
the truth is like, and I will say baseball is I think a bit of a renaissance is happening right now because more and more people I think are tuning in because for two big reasons. One, I think the games are much more watchable.
Mhm.
Now that they have a pitch clock, I feel like the games are happening at a much faster clip. And I just think the players seem more I think they have more swag. I do think there's something about some of these players that they're just more watchable. They're more entertaining in the last few years. I feel like 10 years ago the players were